Hello, YouTubers, and welcome back to another episode of The Grandstand here on the Ohio Patriot Education Network YouTube channel. I'm, as always, your host, AR the Ohio Patriot. And for today's episode, we're going to talk about professional trades versus everyday jobs and the various interactions happened between people recently, and my take on the whole thing. I don't think this is going to be very long, mostly because as of about the last 45 minutes or so, I'm having like severe stomach pain. I think it's due to my diverticulosis, is what it is. And I really wish I could just deal with this shit once and for all and not have, obviously a bunch of health issues going on with my body, all related to the same fucking thing that happened 20 years ago. Yeah, it sucks. Every single health issue I've had since then is all stemmed from that full body peel at 18. But yeah, so basically, um, a while ago, for those that don't know, there was a whole blow up between people in the community, being the guy that goes by Mr. FNH, and then pretty much like 10 of the people is what it was. And so what happened was, and this has to do with professional trade things, what it is. So what happened was you had FNH basically, um, I think he was trying to shit talk Honda on some other people is what it was. And then he was actually at one point trying to dox Honda, was what it was. And so you had, and it was during one of NEA streams, so you had Matt take his mod status away, obviously, and then he ended up banning him, if I'm not mistaken, completely. Not realizing that apparently FNH still had mod powers on Matt's backup channel, that was the Geek Fusion TV side there. And so for like the last, few months now is what it was, you had NEA basically dual streaming between the Never Enough Ammo channel and the Geek Fusion channel for the first like several episodes of that Saturday night chat he does about geek stuff. And he was always wondering, he's like, why is there nobody commenting on the Geek Fusion side? I don't understand what's going on here. And like didn't bother looking into it further than that is what it was. Because he didn't really think anything of it is what it was at the time. And then it was when he had gotten the channel strike that one time for talking about, I forget exactly what it was, like showing some video about some doctor talking about something, I think is what it was. He ended up doing exclusive stuff on the Geek Fusion side and was still confused why people weren't, commenting and stuff like that. And then eventually it came out that F&H still had mod powers over there, was all butthurt about everything. So anytime anybody would leave a comment on the Geek Fusion side or, in the like an actual like comment or anything on the videos or whatever it was there after the streams and shit, he would just ban their account. And it's like, what a petty douchebag, dude. And that's the thing. Like, I actually kind of like it's funny to me too because it's like, me being autistic and stuff like that. I can usually call somebody out like almost immediately for like they're going to be an asshole or they're going to be a douchebag or something like that's what it is. And going back to FNH for one thing that he had mentioned when he was on one of Honda streams, like probably a year and a half ago, something like that's what it was. He came on there and was basically um like jerking off this one shotgun that was like a $1,200 shotgun or something like that. I think is what it was, it was like a Beretta or Benelli or something like that, and was like basically being like, "Oh yeah, this is the best shot." Oh, can you give a body? Sorry, signal was dropping. But anyway, yeah, he's basically being this elitist douchebag in the community where he was shit talking, like essentially the quote unquote pores is what they call them, which in general, like I'm to the point of saying like, you know what, fuck these people that will do that kind of shit is what it is, dude, because you're 100% a part of the problem at that point. Then if you're gonna sit there and shit talk someone that's also a gun owner just because they have like a lesser uh priced gun or a cheaper gun or whatever it is, because that's my whole theory right now. It's like as somebody who is poor and can barely afford to, meet that bar to buy guns, it's like, yeah, I'm gonna get what I can afford. So fuck you is what it is, dude. Seriously. And the thing is, if I had $1,200, I'm not gonna sit there and buy a single shotgun with it. I'm gonna buy like multiple guns with it. Hell, I'd probably get like a 3-gun kind of deal where it'd be like some kind of cheaper AR, uh, maybe a Mossberg Maverick 88 security or something like that, like the 7-round tube ones, and then like a Taurus G3C or something like that, and still have a couple $100 left over for like mags and ammo and shit. So, and that's another thing too that people never really talk about is how it's like, yeah, why would you rather spend like X amount of dollars on one thing and have no ammo for it, or spend, that much money on several things and have ammo and like extra magazines and stuff for all that stuff. And personally, for me, I'd go with the second option, is what it is. But anyway, so yeah, FNH was basically like telling everybody like, "Oh, you should get this gun. This is the greatest gun ever," whatever. And then saying like the price of it, and it's like, yeah, must be nice, dude. Must be nice to have that kind of money. You can afford that kind of shit. But most of us can't, is what it is. And so yeah, basically, I kind of pegged the guy back then for being kind of a elitist asshole, is what it was. And then flash forward like a couple months ago then, and it was basically him doing that thing on Mass Geek Fusion TV side, is what it was. And then everybody finding out about it. And the Honda was calling him out about it after that, is what it was. And that's basically what led to everything going on now. Where you had somebody else jump in there and was all like, "Oh, y'all shit," like basically saying the Honda's like shit, talking like welders and electricians, everything like that. Which, by the way, he has never said anything about anything except for like a single welder being Mr. FNH, is what it is, dude. And what he was specifically commenting about was how you have FNH claiming to be a welder, but only making like $25 to $30 an hour welding, where in reality, you have most people in that profession in most states in this country and most actual professional welding capacity and like jobs and stuff like that there is like anywhere from like $50 to $75 an hour, depending on where you're at. And so yeah, it's like, what kind of piss poor welds is this guy making when he's only making $30 an hour potentially? And it's like, yeah, it's probably like the worst welds ever, I guess, honestly. And it actually led to something. I had a conversation with people back in a back chat a while ago too, after one of the panels here a few months back now. And I was mentioning something how I think this is probably about, I don't know, maybe 2 years ago now that I saw the video, or it was, I don't know if it was a video or it was a post that somebody made, but it was basically this guy talking about welding skills. And he was saying how he had like 3 different sets of welding skills where it depended on the payment that the people were going to pay him for that job, that he would do like X amount of welds or whatever it was, like how good or bad they would be. And it would be like, here's like this really shitty weld that's like, a 30, maybe like a $20 weld. And then it was like a slightly better one that was like a $50 to $60 one. And then it was like this perfect weld all the way down that was like $100 to $150 weld, is what he called it. And again, it depended on what people were going to pay him, like per hour or per day or whatever was going to be there, that he would decide like which one of those 3 he was going to use for welding various things, is what it was. And it could be something like that, honestly. But it could also be that you get into the profession and you just don't have the skill set, is what it is, to do a very good job. And that could be why FNH is not making as much as it could be, honestly. So, who knows? I just thought it was interesting. And then, of course, you had like this big long interaction on Discord between the people that go by a couple that shoots, who, by the way, also tried to dox Honda like 6 months ago, or in the past 6 months. Obviously, I never would, because I'm not a fucking asshole, is what it is. I know what the guy's real name is. I'm not going to mention what it is. I'm not even going to mention where he works, because, again, I'm not going to dox where he fucking works, dude. All I'll say is it's a chain place, and that's it. So, I mean, he's mentioned himself on many streams in the past and stuff, so you could probably figure it out if you really wanted to. But yeah, you had the couple of the shoots guy saying to him, said, just wanted to say, talking to E Honda, said, just want to say you are a bitch for talking shit about the welder making 30 an hour and you make more, this and that. You are serving people and he has a skill that he has learned, and you shit on him and other pipe fitters, electricians, mechanics, teamsters, operators, etc. We are out here building America. What the fuck are you doing? So again, I have been in like every single stream with Honda that he has done on his channel for like the past year and a half now, dude. And not once, even in live streams or back chats for that matter, has he ever shit talked electricians, pipe fitters, etc., teamsters, all those people like that, dude. He specifically called out one fucking douchebag, being Mr. FNH, who fucked with the community, is what it was, and tried to basically silence the community on one of the bigger channels here, is what it is for us. And it's fucked up, dude, is what it is. So yeah, needless to say, like that's why he was basically calling him out, dude. He wasn't really calling out like the fact that he was only making like X amount of dollars welding. It's he was calling out him being like an asshole, is what it was, and then equating the fact that he's getting paid less than he should be for his job, is what it is there, and made you wonder, like, what kind of welds is he doing that he's only getting that much money, is what it is. So And of course, you had our boy Corey come back in there and said, "Where is this coming from?" And then they got into it after that. That's what it was. So pretty interesting. Like I said, for me personally, I don't really care what you do for a living, honestly, as long as you do a good job at it. I mean, obviously, if we're talking about like grid down scenarios and stuff like that, like obviously a professional trade, depending on what it is going to be more in demand for a community and stuff like that after grid down than, let's say like somebody that would be like a waiter or something else like that. But that being said, it's not like Honda is just a waiter. Like the guy has like previous construction experience. If he wanted to, he could go get a CDL and have an actual ability to go drive truck and stuff like that. So yeah, it's not like he doesn't have options there. It's just he happens to work at this place because, you have to make X amount of dollars to live in that city he lives in. That's what it is. And he can't ever find anything that's like around the same price that would pay him as much money for doing like only a few days of work there is what it is. So yeah. And I totally get why he never left that place is what it is. It's like, yeah, if you're making, X amount of dollars in like a 3-day work week or whatever it is, and you can spend a couple of days off then doing whatever then and doing streams on the side and making some money off of super chats and stuff like that, why wouldn't you? So to me it's like a whole thing is what it is. But anyway. I'm going to talk about a couple other comments here that were left here. So Corey basically responded back to a couple of the shoots and said, "If you're talking about who I think you are, then obviously you don't know why those comments were made. Now you're just trying to start shit for what reason?" And then a couple of the shoots responded, and this was yesterday afternoon or last night actually, about 6 hours ago, give or take. Said, "How is this man, meaning Honda, going to talk shit about men doing a skilled trade such as stated above and pretend like it's okay? Don't even know who he is talking about, but why throw shade in the direction of this income, etc.? I know I made more than him. I know I make more than him, but wouldn't throw it in his face. He is doing what he got to do for his kids and life, etc. Why shame someone else?" Again, like I explained in the past 10 minutes or so, that's exactly why this whole thing came about, and that's the problem right now, honestly, right there. If you're not inclined with what's actually going on, you don't really understand like exactly why he's talking shit at one person is what it is. And yeah, and I call that person not my name. It's Mr. FNH is what it is, dude. That's why FNH is basically a banned from this community in most cases on the NEA Honda, myself, etc. community right now. Is because of the fact that he's an asshole. Is what it is, dude. He's a fucking scumbag. And when you fucking literally try to fuck over somebody else's channel and their interaction with the community because you just want to be a petty asshole, dude, like fuck y'all. And that's the thing. And it seems like honestly, like what's funny to me too as well. It seems like in the past year to year and a half, give or take, after everything that went down with me and Guns and Barbecue and everything like that, and then like within like less than 30 days of that, everything with Ray and fucking just blowing up and going completely psychotic on everybody and stuff. And then like right after that, basically in that like 3 or 4 month time span, it seems like there's a lot of people who have just outed themselves as nut jobs in this fucking community is what it is, dude. Like it is kind of funny when you think about it legitimately, actually, which is not surprising, honestly. And the thing is, like, okay, and this is the thing too, right? By the way, so you have people like even going back to my situation like a little over a year ago and stuff what happened there. Like to think that I was basically exiled from that other section of the 2A community on here on YouTube because of just saying some fucking words and like speaking the truth is what it was about the actual how this country was founded, what it's founded upon, and stuff like that. It's fucking ridiculous, dude. And it really does go to show that like half the people involved in that were never even really acquaintances with me at all, and they were just like there. Which personally, I never really consider them friends or acquaintances in that case, meaning obviously that piece of shit PNW Woods, and especially that motherfucker Baron SVG. But yeah, I did consider John a friend. I considered Guns Barbecue a friend quite a bit, actually. And it sucks to know that I never, got to really say my piece there, and he basically was talking out of both sides of his mouth in that whole situation, and then fucked me over like that. So, but it was interesting to see who came to my defense in the whole thing, and that's exactly why I will, back Honda and back a lot of these other guys too, because they were there for me. Like seriously, like if we go back a year ago, man, like roughly about 13 months right now. So basically June of 2022, or not long before that actually. So it was basically like really within like May of 2022 there. It's about 14 months. I seriously started taking my own life over the whole thing. Like it had gotten so bad at that point that I thought, first of all, I thought that people, like those previous mentioned here, because of where they live at geographically and the fact that you do have Antifa and BLM terrorism going on in those states quite a bit, I wouldn't be surprised if at least one or multiple of those people had direct ties to that to those terrorist organizations. And that's what I was thinking. Is it's like, yeah, they're gonna call up somebody, and they're gonna call up somebody here in Ohio, and I'm gonna have a direct action on my fucking house over some bullshit that I said or whatever. And then it's like, if I'm not around, why would they even do that then? And and I mean, like, permanently, like, on a live basically. And so that's basically where my head was at for like probably a good 48 hours of my life. Like it got that much funky depression is what it was, dude. And so, like, it really was like very much just like full isolationist kind of thing at that point. And I don't think people realize like just how bad it was for people like myself, dude, when we go, like, because that's the thing, right? Like, that's why I always talk about like worst case scenario stuff in a lot of cases, because it's like, I know from my own factoid and stuff like that of exactly how bad I can get. That being said, it's not like I have severe depression or anything like that. It's just, it happened to be like kind of like the walls were closing in. It's like, oh, if this happens, like, would this not happen kind of thing? Like, would my family be safe kind of thing is what it is. And that's where my head was at then. And I'm glad I actually talked with some people about what was going on that day, because, they were there for me. And everything worked out okay. And I'm still here, obviously, and I'm obviously not suicidal is what it is. And that's the thing right now, and that's why there needs to be more organizations out there like the Hold My Guns people and stuff like that, or you can't, like, in every single state and every single city and stuff like that, actually. So in case you are in that kind of a funky period of your life, whatever the case be, where you're not, you're probably not going to kill yourself, but like just in case, like, you don't want to have something around that you could kill yourself with, and so it is one of those situations where I think we need to fund a lot more of those things. And I really wish people like the NRA at this point would stop fucking pissing away money on Wayne LaPierre's suits, ties, shoes, and private jets and stuff like that, and actually start funding these orgs. Is what it would be, man. Like, throw some money back to the community is what it is, dude. And that's a real problem in general with the NRA in general, is like they do just enough to basically act like they're relevant at all, and then they take like the lion's share of any financial contributions to the Second Amendment fight is what it is. And yet, meanwhile, organizations like mine, High Picture Education Network, we have nothing, dude. We are completely grassroots. We have no money in the coffers right now at all. And it is a complete self-funding at this point. Like, unless somebody wanted to financially back us, like, we would have no money to fight anything at all the time. And that's exactly what we're trying to get a vehicle right now, honestly. Family car broke down recently, and we're still trying to get, find like 8 to 10 grand to buy a new one right now, because that's pretty much what the going prices of them. So, and if I can do that and I can actually get a working vehicle again, I might be able to go down to Columbus and start doing actual fights down at the State House here in the coming months and work out well and stuff like that. So, anyway, going back to the interaction between a couple of Shoots and Corey here on the Discord there. Corey said, exactly, you're trying to start shit when you have no idea why the shade is being thrown in the first place. That welder is a piece of shit and is deserving of all the shit talking. Yeah, exactly. FNH is a scumbag, dude. So, see, yeah, not FNH. A couple of issues came back and said he may deserve the shit talking in FNH, but why go after his career and money, etc., unless I'm missing something? Again, it wasn't the fact that you had Honda go after his career is what it was. You had FNH basically make it about his career and how much it's like, oh yeah, I make this much money doing this profession or whatever the case be. And the reality, it's like not. It's like the low end of that fucking profession is what it is, dude. And that was the whole thing about it. So yeah, it's just funny to me in general. Actually, my stomach is feeling a bit better now, so that's good. Hopefully, the diverticulosis is not too bad right now. It sucks, man. It really does. I swear to God, like if any, like if anything, I should honestly be in a medical book right now for me, like a medical anomaly myself, because it's just like all the possible things that could have happened to me in my life that I survived, and this is where we're at right now. And it's like, yeah, I have like so many things, health issue stuff, that is just like less than a percent or two of the fucking population, and it's like, dude, like that's some fucking bullshit. Like talk about being dealt a shit hand in life, dude, and basically having to deal with it every day of your life now. So actually, that was one thing that happened when I had the full body peeling 20 years ago. Um, because I was in the ICU for 6 days right after or right during Christmas. There, the guy was admitted obviously Christmas Eve of 2003, and then it was for the next 6 days. Basically, had my top layer of skin all peel off and stuff like that. And if you actually want to, I think it's the Hopkins Medical Journal. I'm actually in that book, like basically from the neck down is what it is, um, where they show like my skin issues and stuff like that. Then, and yeah, they basically told me that I was like a medical anomaly, and I was essentially like the fact that I was able to survive that was kind of a miracle. So it is interesting there, and that was like one of the few times in life I think I definitely I wouldn't say I have like 9 lives like a cat or anything like that, but I definitely feel like I, escaped death there is what it was for sure. And there was a couple other times in life too that I've had the same thing happen with like infections and shit. So I would say at this point I'm on like my fifth or sixth life, honestly, of maybe like 7 or 8 then. So, but anyway, it is what it is. Hmm. Yeah. Wow. So apparently a couple of the shoots are trying to fight Corey, I guess now. That's funny. That actually makes me laugh, bro. Uh I actually kind of want to see this now, dude. I'll referee that shit, by the way, if we actually do have that be a thing at some point, dude. Just be like, go. Like, I don't know what it would be though. Like, that's the thing. Would it be like, would we do that as like a bare knuckle brawl, a boxing match, a wrestling match? Like, what are we talking about here? Because either way, I'd referee any of that, honestly. Because I know what Corey looks like, dude, and I know what the kind of power that motherfucker has behind him, dude. And I wouldn't fuck with him personally because I've heard the stories, and oh, buddy, like if he still has anywhere near the power he had in his teenage years, like, oh my god, dude, like he would fucking skull crush somebody at that point. So, he wants to be that gentle giant, but yeah, you piss that dude off enough, and he'll fucking you're gonna learn some shit that day, man. Why you shouldn't have, and that's the thing even with myself for that matter. It's like, yeah, you can piss me off to a point where it's just like you want to talk shit and talk shit and talk shit or whatever the case be, and then it's like fucking throwdown time, and it's kind of like that one episode of Walking Dead where Negan just sees red and just doesn't realize like he's severely beating that guy's ass is what it is. And I feel like that's where I would be at, honestly, in many cases myself. It's just like, you get to me, you keep like, poking the bear kind of thing with myself. And eventually like snap. And I don't know what the hell happened after that. I just like it's just like I look at my hands and they're just like all bloody knuckles and shit like that, and I have no idea what happened. That's happened to me in high school at least once actually, and it was not good for the other guy, honestly. And needless to say, it almost got both of us expelled actually. But yeah, bad deal all the way around, man. Ironically enough, the two of us are I don't know how to really say we're friends now, but we're definitely um acquaintances still after this whole thing. And like I said, that's over 20 years ago. That was like probably about 23, 24 years back now. When I was like 14, 15 years old. So, hmm. Anyway, to go back to the professional trade thing though. So yeah, honestly, like if we're talking about like straight up like grid down stuff, you're gonna have a lot more inclined folks and stuff like that in communities that would want somebody like a welder or a plumber or an electrician or whatever the case be, or somebody with some kind of skill set like that could either get like some power back or keep like the sewage system flowing and stuff like that, et cetera, et cetera. Then obviously like just some guy that's like is waiting a wait staff guy or a bartender or something like that. And that's the thing too, like obviously if you're going on the bartender thing, like the thing about being like a bartender is if you can mix drinks well, but you would also have like a skill set to make like potential like moonshine or whatever, and then also make like that moonshine into like flavored cocktails and stuff. That would be a big in demand skill, I think, in Grid Down because, of course, you like it's just like everything else. Life's gonna suck if the power all goes down or if our country's in chaos or whatever the case be, and people are gonna want a place to just chill out and have a few drinks here and there, or maybe just have a drink here or there, or whatever it is. And if you're that kind of person that can provide that service to them, you're going to be a very in demand individual, is what it is, especially for different communities and stuff. And that's the big thing. And people don't realize that versus, like let's go ahead and say, and I've said before, honestly, when it comes to like college degrees and stuff as well, on top of that, nobody wants a fucking liberal arts major or a women and gender studies major, whatever the case be. Those are the kind of people, honestly, like any of those SJW degrees that they created over the decades where it's like, black theory and race equity or some shit like that is what the degree would be or something, or what do they call it now? It's like diversity, equity, inclusion degrees and stuff is what I call them because that's what they are. That's what they actually consider themselves now. That's what the new directive of CRT is, by the way. It's DEI. And so you have like these people that are like critical race theory / diversity, equity, inclusion majors and stuff, and they would be a ditch digger when everything's said and done. They would be the people who are literally digging a ditch or digging a pit or whatever it is for people to shit in, you know? And they would be handed a shovel, or in the same vein of things on that one, they might be a grave digger where they would go out there and dig graves for people that would be, passed on, or, you know, if it be something where it's just like we're gonna dig like one big ass grave to just like toss like a bunch of people into that are already dead of natural causes from some outbreak or whatever it be, then yeah, they would be those people doing that stuff. They wouldn't have the skill set to go and do, like big machinery stuff or anything like that, or any kind of skill set to use like backhoes and stuff. They would just be like some person being handed probably a pair of gloves, if even a pair of gloves, or just maybe a fucking shovel for that matter. Honestly, if you're smart, you would be handing out pairs of gloves with shovels if you don't want people getting blistered hands and stuff like that. But obviously, eventually, if you work with bare hands doing that stuff, over time, you will get blisters, obviously, and then you'll get calluses over those blisters, and you'll start building up that whole callus issue, the whole callus thing, where it's not going to hurt anymore when you're doing that kind of work continuously. But of course, you're going to have like time off to have those blisters heal and shit like that, so you don't pop them in your hands and shit and have all fucked up infections and then die of infections, obviously, and those kind of grit down kind of deals like that. That's another bad thing too, by the way. And that again, it goes back to even the skill sets of like EMTs and stuff like that. Um, most EMTs after a grid down situation, you would have them becoming like town doctors and stuff like that. It would be like the old school days of like Little House on the Prairie shit, where you'd have just like the one random town doctor guy or whatever, and they might have been like an ex EMT or nurse even for that matter. And so, you're definitely going to have those skill sets that are in demand like that, or those professional, trade sets and stuff like that that are in demand, depending on exactly what it is, in any kind of after conflict scenario or like grid down scenarios or whatever you want to call them there, shit span scenarios, stuff like that, versus like everyday professions like, fast food worker, waiter, uh, bartender that doesn't really know how to mix drinks all that well, et cetera, you know, anything like that. Or even for that matter, just like random person that maybe a retiree or whatever the case be, but their like previous job before they were retired was like some random like real estate agent or something like that, And that's another thing too. Like, I'm not saying that that person wouldn't be able to be, some position somewhere, being, a good talker or something like that. Maybe they would be like a secretary of like a leader in the community that you're in or whatever. Maybe like a newspaper reporter kind of person. Then if that be the case, because obviously you want to bring back like that's one thing I think would be having the comebacks happen, honestly, like after Grid Down and stuff, where you'd have like these communities and things like that. And eventually, depending on how well established community is, it'd be something kind of like the Commonwealth at the end of the Walking Dead series, where you would have like a town newspaper kind of thing almost. And it would be like, what's the news of the day or what's good. Like, it would essentially have like different things on it of like, oh, here's, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, like schedule of events that are going to happen or whatever for the town and stuff. And it would be like various things, like maybe like there's a carnival for the kids one day, and then you'd have like other stuff going on throughout the week and whatnot. And maybe one of them's like a blood drive for that matter or something, and it's like, yeah, we need to have like, we have the ability to have like cold storage now or something like that. We want to keep like, you know different kinds of blood on tap in case people would need like surgeries and stuff like that. We could actually have like this functioning hospital that would need like, blood supply refills and stuff over time. And I think you'd have those kind of things, honestly. And you'd have like various reports about different things going on and stuff like that, and being like, if nothing else, have like a little paper where it's like, marauders spotted, 30 miles west and 20 miles east or something like that. Make sure that like basically have it be like, make sure you're armed at all times, have a buddy with you, do the buddy system kind of thing or whatever like that. Because the thing is, like, depending on how big the town would be, obviously, if it's going to be like a larger community and stuff like that, you wouldn't have the ability to just walk around and be like, make sure you're armed, everybody, make sure you're armed, everybody. It would be something where it'd be like, you might not know like every single person in that town anymore, because there might be like 1,000 people there. It might be like even like 5,000 people there or something like that, depending on how large the little, city block thing would be then or whatever. So yeah, you would definitely need to have like news and stuff like that. And I think that's where like people like that would come in, honestly. Would be like the ex folks along those lines would be like the, grid down kind of reporter people or the grid down kind of newspaper people would be then, versus what they used to do as like a realtor or whatever there. And then of course you'd have other people that would be, naturally getting other skill sets as well on that one. So, and that's the one thing I think you would have people obviously that would have like, I think, no skill set going into grid down, but could adapt to situations very quickly and be able to pick up on things to be able to then have a skill set when it's all said and done. And I like to use The Walking Dead a lot for that, because there was like things mentioned in that show a lot of different things. Like there was one I know with Rosita's character, you had her basically talking to, I forget who it was offhand, Sasha maybe in one of the episodes in like 6, 7, somewhere in there, season 6, season 7, somewhere in there, maybe season 8. I'm not sure exactly where it was at. But anyway, they were basically talking about things, and she was essentially talking about how the way that she survived the initial stages of the fall there with the zombie apocalypse was she whored. She was a fucking whore. She literally sucked dick to survive. And that's the thing with a lot of, I think, very good looking women in our society right now. You would have those chicks realizing that's their only skill set at the time and try to use that to basically survive. And maybe some of them will. And I think, unfortunately, for some of them, they're going to end up being sex slaves to an entire group of guys. Because you're going to have, like, you're naturally going to have, like, different groups of dudes, like that claim crew, bunch of guys and stuff like that. They're, like, really creepy, like, sort of rapisty type guys and stuff like that, or, like, pedos even for that matter. Like, you're going to have people like that come together, just naturally formed and stuff like that. And yeah, you might have like a chick or two there that would basically be used and abused by those guys constantly. And it would be a situation there where it's like, it's not going to be a good thing for that individual that has it happen to them, if that be the case. But that being said, in that same vein of things, you might have another girl or something like that out there that would be, kind of doing the same thing, whatever. But then eventually she starts picking up a skill set where she could be, very vital as like a supply runner or something like that. Like she can get in and out of places like very easily or whatever then. And I think that would be a big in demand skill as well, for that matter. It'd be people that would do like supply runs or be able to find like, various things out and about and stuff like that. Like maybe like a gun company or whatever the case be that's now, defunct or whatever, because it's all, grid down and shit. And maybe there's like a warehouse this person stumbles upon that's all full of weapons and stuff, or even ammunition for that matter. And so, that would be like a big, barter system. Then, if that be the case, then that they could basically have as a supply thing there. So, and then of course, the thing with prostitution being the oldest profession in our society ever, I think very much you would have something like that happen as well, where you just have people who would naturally realize, like, oh, okay, we have like old school saloons again. Like, here's a madam, and then there's a bunch of chicks that work for that madam kind of thing is what it would be then. Maybe it's like a bar owner guy that owns the entire bar, and it's like the madam works for him as well on that one. Or even it's like a chick that owns the bar, whatever the case be, and it's like maybe she's also the madam, like she's a bar owner slash madam for basically a brothel then, and then you'd have like a bunch of chicks work for that brothel and shit. And it would basically be their go-to thing then. And then obviously maybe that's not their only profession. Maybe they have like another skill set for that matter where they could do stuff. But that's the thing, man. I think honestly, it doesn't really matter like if you're a guy, gal, whatever the case be. Like over time, especially in like I said, grit down, like there's going to be multiple things that become an in-demand kind of deal. Then when you start have, and the thing is like the initial stages of a collapse scenario in this country, it's going to be every man for himself. So if you don't already have like an established community and stuff like that, where you could potentially have like like close off the rink, shut the doors, lock the fences, etc. there, and basically just have like a walled off community for a little bit, you're not going to be in good shape. You're going to be out there, surviving every day like it's your last kind of thing. And then eventually over time, what you'll end up having is you'll have these small communities that did band together and stuff like that, that will wait until all these, crazy motherfuckers outside kill each other off, kind of like that Twisted Metal show is what it is. And then they'll basically be doing their own thing inside the walls. And eventually it'll be something where when all the chaos outside, kills itself off or damn close to killing itself off, if that be the case, then you would then have them all realize very quickly that, how do I say this now? Yeah, they would realize very quickly that you would eventually have communities coming together and start, doing trade with each other and stuff like that, and actually establishing law and order again is what it would be, to where there would be actually decency in our society again. And even with having, various things like that, you would still have like, a brothel or a saloon or whatever the case be. And you would have people that would be able to do like moonshine making, control that saloon. And the same thing with the brothel thing. Like you'd have people that would be able to find, and acquire like, good looking chicks or even good looking guys for that matter, depending on which way you swing, if that be the case then. Because who's to say it might be like an either sex kind of brothel thing there. Where it's like, depending on what you want, they can hook up with anything, if that be the case then, man. So, and that's the entire point, though, is that you'd have people that would have that. And then, of course, that would obviously lead to disease coming back in some stages and stuff with like STDs and stuff that would be, currently, a shot of penicillin or something else for that matter could cure. But depending where you're at, if you don't have those medications on hand anymore, pretty much a death sentence when you get those kind of diseases, man. So, not a good thing at all, man. But yeah, it would be interesting to see, honestly. I sometimes think about it, obviously, from time to time here and there, just to see exactly where we'd be at as a society. For me personally, depending on how, good or bad I am at any given time, as long as I can keep my inflammation and stuff in check, I'm actually good. But the thing is, like, if I couldn't, I'd probably be good for about the first 6 months to a year, and then that would be the end of me, honestly, in any of those kind of grid down things, I think. And it would essentially be, at any given time, depending on how bad off I was, like if I could even like walk or not. And it's one thing why I kind of want to keep our society, functioning right now and not have our fucking whole entire country collapsing on itself right now. But that being said, like, after some shit I saw here in the last day or two, man, where you had these fucking so-called like leftist influencer types and stuff like that talking about like, oh, back in World War II, I would have done this thing or whatever, and worn this thing or whatever it is. And it's like, then they even talked about like the wrong time period that was the fucking war at that point. It's like, Jesus Christ, child. Like, if they like, what's funny to me is the one chick that was talking about it was saying something about like, like she would never want to go to war with her generation or whatever, which I think on that one she meant as like allies or whatever. Like it would be like her and the rest of them people going to war as a group or whatever versus like somebody else then. And it's like my first thought on that one was it's like, okay, well, first of all, if we're in a civil war and these are the people we're fighting, like it ain't gonna be much of a fucking civil war, dude. It'll be done in like probably like 3 days to a week at most with those kind of individuals. So yeah, it would definitely be a one-sided lopped or very, very one-sided, very lopsided win very quickly is what it would be. And if that be the case, and that's how quickly it would happen, honestly, and then we can get to like, maybe like a year or two revolution after that, if that be the case, then like, yeah, we would be better off as a society after that. But again, it would be a whole thing of like still being able to get, what I would need for things then during that time period. So I prefer to avoid it if at all possible. But at the same time, it's just like something's gonna break here eventually. And it's only a matter of time before we finally have something kick off in this country again. I mean, how you look at the whole, like, that's the thing people never really talk about with America is you look at our actual history in the United States of America here, and since our founding in 1776, we have pretty much always been at war in some form or fashion throughout the entire, 240 some odd years now of our existence as a country. Because you had 1776, then you had the Whiskey Rebellion of the 1780s, which had directly to do with the uh, money that was needed to basically fund the actual founding of this country and the American Revolution. And then, after that, you had some other stuff going on, various, rebellions and revolts and stuff like that over the decades. That's why you had, obviously, Thomas Jefferson enacting the Insurrection Act back in the 1800s. Then you had, some slave rebellions here and there during insurrection acts and stuff like that, like Nat Turner's Rebellion. And then eventually you had the Civil War was one of the actual insurrection acts. I think it was like the fifth or sixth one or something like that. During that time, you also had like back in like the mid 1800s and stuff. You also had a bunch of strikes back then, where it was like railroad strikes for like working conditions and stuff, because you had people be handling like very explosive dynamite and shit like that was like very unstable and stuff because they couldn't stabilize it properly back then. And you'd have some guy like having to like walk that towards a fucking big ass rocket they could blow up to, make a train track through this tunnel and stuff like that. And it would just blow up in that person's hand a lot of times. And you'd just be like, okay, we need another gym now. So, and unfortunately for those people, in a lot of cases, depending on if you're a minority or not, dude, you're probably going to be the one holding that dynamite, is what it is. Like, it was either some Asian guy or it was some black dude that was holding the talking dynamite in most cases. So it's like, yeah, we need another Tyrone now. So, although that wasn't a common name back then, you actually had real names back then, like Hank and Bruce and stuff like that. So it's like, yeah, we need another Bruce now, man. So anyway, or it was like Henry or something. But anywho, um, actually, James is like that's one thing I realized too. Like when you start looking back at like the history of like slave times and stuff like that in this country, and like even like post slavery, like industrial revolution stuff like that, where they built like a lot of the train tracks and stuff. There was a lot of black dudes named like James or John. Like it was a very common name back then. And I don't know if it was because it was like something that, their previous slave owners gave them as a name, or if it was something that, was actually their parent that they were eventually separated from in like slave auctions gave them before they were separated then. So either way, very interesting. And that is another sad factoid when you don't think that you don't really think about much when it comes back to like, slavery in this country actually is how many families were separated where you had, son go to one plantation, mom go to a different plantation, dad's over here in a third plantation and he, gets killed or whatever because he is trying to fight back against the overseers and shit. And then you got like the daughter maybe with the mom or with another group of people or something like that. And like, as like a house slave or something. So yeah, it's pretty messed up, man. Actually, it's interesting. Depending on the women back in those days, a lot of them actually were cooks in the houses during that time period. So, and then of course, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was around that time is where you had the invention of fried chicken, because it was basically them doing like a bunch of herbs and spices and shit like that, and basically frying it up out in these like skillets outside and stuff like that. And then you had the various plantation owners come out there and we're like smelling it. We're like, what's that good stuff? And yeah, that became a thing then. So, and then of course it was anything that they had left over in most cases that they would be able to eat. Like that's why you had like pig's feet be a delicacy in most cases now, and like different stuff like that. It was like that, and like the different greens and shit that were like the essentially scraps from the main house and stuff were given to them. And yeah, it was like whatever was left over is what these people usually ate, and that's kind of what you end up having as stables then. So, that's what it is. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people now that would, depending on what it would be, they wouldn't eat it at all, and then they would wonder why they starved to death in a grid down scenario. And it's like, yeah, doesn't matter what it is, dude, you got to eat it. And if you'd rather starve, like, good luck on that, because it's going to be like 30 to 40 days before you die of starvation. Then that's what I think is funny about that Naked and Afraid show. It's like they used to talk about how people like lose like 5-10 pounds here and there is what it is, and it's like, yeah, dude, because you're slowly starving to death because you're not having like any real protein in that place except for maybe like a fish or two during that whole entire time. So it makes sense, honestly. But anyway, yeah, needless to say, when it comes to professional trades versus everyday jobs, depending on what the job is or depending on what the degree path would be then for that potential job and stuff, you're definitely going to have a lot more skilled trades and professional trades be in demand, especially if this country does fall, versus everyday just burger flipping jobs and stuff like that. And like I said before, if you're a good looking female, you may survive for some amount of time just based on the fact that you would eventually be in a brothel kind of situation then in most cases. And I think that would basically be for a lot of these chicks right now do the OnlyFans and stuff like that kind of deal. Like that would pretty much be their go-to thing anyway, because they would already be used to it. It would just be like, yeah, now I'm just doing it professionally then if that be the case to survive. And then others would may, come together, whatever the case be. Or it might be a situation too as well where you just have like, certain people just survive because, somebody felt sorry for them, and then eventually it turned out that they could be a useful individual then to that person, where it might not be that, they would actually be good at doing like different skills or whatever the case be, but maybe they could learn some things. And at the same time, they could be another person to essentially be like a human pack mule at that point, where it's like, you got this whole bunch of shit you want to carry with you or whatever the case be. You can only carry so much stuff. And it's like, yeah, this person can carry like another bag for you or something then, or a couple bags for you. And that's what they're there for the time. And then eventually they start learning skill sets from you and, becoming like a friend to you or whatever the case be. And I think in a lot of cases, that's what would happen with some people is what it would be. You would just have like natural, interactions and stuff like that happen where it's like maybe some people get killed in those things, but like other people that are kind of like, I don't want to kill you. I don't think you want to kill me kind of thing. Let's both put our guns down for the time being or whatever and just fucking talk this out kind of thing. And then, eventually you have like a back and forth, 2-minute interaction, 5-minute interaction, whatever it is there. And you come to an understanding. And eventually it's something where it's like you both have the same common goal to survive. And you decide like, as individuals, like you're not that, powerful together, but coming together as, a duo then might make you a little bit more powerful. And you can actually have like a thing where you can sleep in shifts and shit like that and watch each other's backs kind of thing. And I think eventually that's what would happen with a lot of people actually that would be out in the wastelands and stuff at the time. You would just have those kind of individuals come together like that, and they would survive because of that. And you'd eventually have like these small packs of nomads is what it would be, just like they used to have back in the day, where you'd have these people that would just, nomadically walk from place to place to place is what it is, depending on, weather and stuff like that. And it would be very much like, seasonal dependency of like, hey, is this going to produce us food and stuff like that? Oh, it's not. Okay. It's going to be like dry desert or whatever. Okay. Then we need to leave at this time and start walking in this direction or whatever the case be down to this area. And we can be in this place for like, a fall or a winter time or whatever then and survive here better and stuff and not be, dying of like bitter cold exposure and stuff like that then. So yeah, needless to say, I think it'll be an interesting situation all the way around. Do I think it'll ever happen for real though? Maybe, honestly, depending. Do I think it already happened in other universes in our multiverse? Yes, I do. I think it does actually. I think it has happened in other universes across our multiverse right now, to where you have, depending on how you want to look at the multiverse theorem and stuff like that. Like, let's say that like we're here as like Earth 1, and this is like Earth 2, and then like 3. or it might be like that's like Earth 2 and this is Earth 3, or it even could be like this is Earth 2, 3, 4, and then the other way it's like this is Earth, 10,999,000, and then it's like opposite that or whatever, and depending on which way you're going there, you could essentially have, you know, various uh, tweaks and stuff like that happening in those different alternate Earths and stuff like that, where maybe one of them already has gone into grid down, or a couple of them have already gone into grid down and basically become like a new society and stuff after the fact, where it looks more like the 1800s again and stuff like that, where it's kind of like old cowboy times, but we're not using like cowboy guns now. We're still using like semi-autos and stuff like that, or even like having like full auto abilities and stuff like that, or even hell, you may have one of those kind of places where they have like phaser guns and shit for that matter, where it's like the old good old original Terminator film where he's like phase plasma rifle in the 40-watt range. And it could be something like that, honestly. And hell, there could be we could have a fucking society out there where we're fighting fucking Terminators and shit like that right now from AI being, a thing. By the way, if you have not watched the trailers for that movie, The Creator, holy shit, you need to watch those trailers, dude. That scares honestly, I've watched both of the trailers they put out for that movie so far. That shit scares the fuck out of me right now, dude. Like thinking how much we actually are close to that right now, because potentially you do have AI that is already being admitted to that's like pretty much self-aware right now, or damn close to it anyway, and like almost self-replicating is what it would be. And like thinking about that in like 2023 right now, that if like that's what we're like, if that's what's leaking out that we're being told about, like God forbid what's actually not being leaked out that we're not being told about, like, dude, I am legitimately scared that like Skynet's going to go online at any given time anymore and do like some kind of nuke in this fucking country or whatever the case be, like set off one of our nukes on us or something like that. Because that's pretty much what the Just That Creator movie is about. It's like that was like the second teaser trailer, whatever the case be. They mentioned how it was like 15 or 20 years back. It's like, oh yeah, the AI became self-aware and set off nuclear weaponry against us or something, and that was what was left of humanity after the fact. Then, and then you got this fucking dude finding this kid that's like, it's almost like a kid, but it's not a kid because it's like a child AI hybrid, and it's just like, so it looks like a kid with like facial skin and stuff like that, but then like the sides of its head are like fucking like robotic ears and shit. And it's like, bro, that's some scary as fuck shit right there. Like, nah, man, you got to make sure that doesn't fucking go online basically as Skynet, man, for real. So yeah, it looks like a really good movie. Honestly, it's one of the few things if I had money, I would definitely pay to go see that in theaters. Honestly, just because of how like interesting it looks like. But at the same time, it's kind of like one of those things where it's like Hollywood showing dystopia kind of stuff like that, dude. It's like, is it one of those predictive programming things where they're actually just trying to warn us, like, oh, this is what we're close to now? And it's like, we actually know what's going on in the back. We have our finger on the pulse kind of thing. We know what's going on already and stuff. It's like, we're priming you for the eventual takeover kind of thing, is what it'd be then. Like, I don't know, man. But it's like scary as shit to think about, honestly. And then apparently, I guess there was like something that may or may not have happened in Japan where you had some of these things go online and kill a bunch of people. And I don't know. Like there was talk about that one. Some people said didn't happen or whatever, but it's like, okay, let's say it like this: if it actually did happen, do you really think that the mainstream media, etc., is really going to let it out that you had a bunch of AI become self-aware, go insane, kill their creators, and then have to be put down? And when one of them potentially was put down, then it actually started self-replicating and healing itself. Like, do you really think they're going to let that shit out into everyday society, dude? Hell no. They're going to cover that fucking shit up as much as possible and maybe try to scrap the program after the fact. But they're not going to let that shit out for real and going to confirm that, like, yes, there's like 30 people dead here because of this whole thing. Like, no, man, they're going to keep that shit under wraps is what it is. Just like every other government would. It's like the same exact. That's what it kind of pisses me off when people like kind of shit talk some of the claims that Alex Jones made over the years about like human animal hybrids like chimeras and stuff like that. And it's like, bro, seriously, if our government, the U.S. government, actually had underground facilities in this country where they were doing crazy experimentations like that, do you really think that they're going to let that shit leak out, or it's going to be like crazy ass redacted documents where every single thing except for like 2 words are going to be fucking blacked out on that one? No, it's going to be it's going to be the entire blackout fucking documents. It'll be, dude. and they're going to sit there and call people conspiracy theorists that say that it's happening and stuff, and try to discredit those people as much as possible because they know what they're actually doing is what it is. And that's why I think honestly that shit could be happening right now, because it's like it would make sense, honestly, especially with the crazy ass military budgets we give out every year is what it is, dude. And you're signing off on like $1 trillion budgets now in Congress and Senate and shit, dude. You can't tell me there's not like a whole bunch of fucking spending going to like secret government psyop programs and shit, dude, for that matter. Where it's like not only just psyop programs, but it's also just like, random experimentation programs and shit like that. Where it's just like all kinds of alien tech and stuff like that being used, and different experimentations of like different hybrid fucking creatures and shit like that potentially. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at least if that came out in the next 5 or 10 years, honestly, for real. But anyway, it all depends, man. It depends on how much longer this country really has until we're in some kind of a collapse scenario right now, which they seem to be trying to accelerate it every day of our lives. And when they have us trying to go to like digital currencies and fucking Fed coin shit or whatever they want to call it now, digital dollars and stuff, and you got all these BRICS countries trying to fuck us over and go to like kind of like a gold standard or like Russian ruble or Chinese yen or whatever it is there. So yeah, not good, man. Not good at all. But anyway, needless to say, my best advice to anybody out there is, if you don't have a skill set already, it's time to develop one. If you don't have the basic survival skills to start fires and stuff like that, if you would need to survive with like, being able to actually keep warm and shit, if like the grid actually did go down for real, it's time to learn how to start making fires, dude. And I would say not just one method, do like multiple methods for that matter, because you never know which one will work and how many you'll actually need to have to do things. That being said, it's also a good idea to probably go into to invest in like some kind of a stormproof lighter thing, maybe a couple of those even for that matter. Preferably ones that don't use like battery stuff and will use some kind of like fluid or whatever. Also, just a good idea to have like just everyday like Bic sticks around for that matter too, man, because eventually those will be in demand as well. I think eventually those do over time evaporate out a little bit here and there. It's just like the same exact thing if you have like a Zippo or whatever. You have to take, there's a cloth on the bottom of the Zippos, obviously, where eventually you have to take like some actual lighter fluid and like squirt it into that to back up. And I think that lasts for like a few months is what it is, and then it eventually will dry out is what it is there, and you have to like re-fluid it up then is what it is. So yeah, it's not like it's going to be sitting there forever then. Speaking of which, I need to get some more lighter fluid from my Zippo is what it is, because I know I have one around here. I just don't have it. I haven't done it for a while, so it would definitely be dried up now to where if I tried to spark it, it wouldn't do any sparkage, it wouldn't be there. Or it might do like a spark, but it wouldn't actually catch a flame, is what it would be though, because it wouldn't have anything to actually flame out then. So anyway, but yeah, for those interested in what I'm talking about, when I'm talking about like some kind of a Bic lighter and stuff here, I think I have one sitting here someplace. Talking about something like this right here, which is like your little everyday, lighter and stuff. So, and those will usually keep for a while and can be used to start fires and stuff like that, to keep warm and whatnot. And then eventually, obviously, you'd want to have fire as well to cook food, because most meat should never be eaten raw is what it is, especially depending on what kind of meat it is. We're talking about like snake and stuff like that. You cannot actually eat like most snakes raw is what it is. You have to cook those things, because it's some kind of like weird enzyme that they have in them where it won't die. I think it's either an enzyme in them or an enzyme in you where it can't be digested raw in the human body is what it is. And it has to be cooked through to actually be able to be eaten properly without giving you like serious digestional issues is what it is then. So yeah, if it comes down to that, you're going to want fire for those reasons, what it is there. And, like I said, obviously a lighter is a good idea, but of course, if it gets, like wet and rainy and stuff like that, you're going to have like an alternate method to start fires and shit. So, obviously a good idea to have like a skill set to know how to start like, fires 10 or 12 different ways for that matter, even if you go down that route and stuff. Even with 4 or 5 different ways to start fire is a good idea, honestly. Having more than one method period is a better idea, obviously. But anyway, so yeah, basically, have a skill set. would be number one. Number two is basically getting yourself in a situation where if things do go bad, you could easily come together with a community of like-minded individuals wherever you're living at to potentially save yourselves. Have that community, create some kind of barricade thing, whatever around it, or put up walls or whatever there, and be able to keep out outsiders. Is what it is, dude. And everybody has their jobs and stuff like that, and you're all pretty much in the same mindset, mind frame, and stuff like that, where you can do security shifts and stuff like that throughout the day and things. So you have people always on the wall or on whatever patrol there to make sure that nobody's coming in there to cause you harm and stuff. So anyway, but yeah, needless to say, there's definitely going to be, if our country ever does go to shit entirely, you're definitely going to see a flux of power in this nation very quickly, because it's going to be the people that actually have like skill sets and knowledge and weapons experience and stuff like that, and weapons training even for that matter, that are going to be the ones to be a lot of leaders in a lot of cases, whether it be dictator style leaders to smaller extents, warlords if you will, or whether it be people that are going to be like natural leaders that would be technically elected by the people around them to lead and stuff like that, to make sure that you have everybody be secure and everything like that. Kind of like that show Jericho, where you had, like you had like obviously the kind of mayor's race there for those dudes, but then at the same time you had, I think it's called New Bern was the other town over there they ended up having a war with eventually. You had the mayor of that town realizing that he wasn't shit, and then basically having the sheriff of the town take over as mayor then, and was like the leader then, is what it was by default. And I think in a lot of cases that's what you'd have happen, honestly. You just have like, people like vacate power or whatever and be like, here's this person I'm gonna take up in my place instead, is what it is, because they know more and have a better skill set than I do to deal with this kind of shit then. So, and then obviously, we if in grid downs and stuff like that, you'd have a lot of things being treated with death penalties on the spot, is what it would be. Like thievery would be one of those things. Obviously, if you ever watch any of these documentaries about grid down and stuff like that, you would just have legitimately town sheriff, town police chief, whatever they want to call themselves at that point. In most cases, they would just kill looters and thieves on the spot at that point, dude. And in many cases, just hang their dead bodies outside the settlement as a thing to be like, oh, this is what we do to thieves and looters. You want this to happen to you? Okay, then don't steal shit from us. So, yeah, it would basically be a warning. And that's what they used to do to people back in the day, by the way, a couple hundred years ago. And that's what they'll do again if this country ever falls. So, just know, man, people, we have that thin veil of civility right now. We have this thin veil of civility right now. And it's just going away the more and more that we get towards political divide by the powers that be right now. So, eventually something's going to happen. Like I said, I have no idea what it's going to look like. It could be a balkanization event. It could be the complete division of this country in that kind of event. It could be an actual, Second American Civil War, Second American Revolution, a purge style event, either once or yearly for that matter. Who knows, man? Could be anything. Or it could just be a total collapse where you have, some crazy fuckers getting us in World War III, and then we have tactical nuclear weaponry being used across various countries, and you have entire sectors of countries being no-go zones now because it's all nuclear fallout there, and that takes down entire power grids potentially then. So, yeah, you could easily have something like that. I mean, hell, even in the movie, I was gonna say movie, I think they were gonna make it into a movie or a TV show, but never got made into that yet. But yeah, there's a book series out there. The first book in is called 1 Second After, and basically the gist of it is you have China who shoots off a bunch of tactical nukes into our atmosphere that are essentially like nuclear warheads. And when they're shot up above the, I want to say we're the northern atmosphere, but I could be wrong about that one. Whichever atmosphere America falls underneath there, they basically shoot them up above us, is what it is. And it's the electrical magnetic pulse, basically, is what it creates. So it's an EMP burst. and it just showers down upon our atmosphere is what it is there, and completely knocks out our grid then, except for like any cars that are like 1940s and 50s and stuff like that. And like I think early 60s is a couple of the other ones that would survive that because they don't have the different crazy computer technology in them that modern day cars do after like 1970 or so. So anyway, and then eventually in that book you have them converting like 70s and 80s vehicles and ripping out like some of the old shit there and like replacing it with something else and it works again. But yeah, anything over like 1985 or 1990 or something like that, you would never be able to redo anything with it because it's all computer chips and shit like that underneath the hoods. So you're talking about like anything up to like I think that's like 85, 86 somewhere in there is when the last vehicle that didn't use all kinds of computer chips underneath the hood will be able to be salvaged, and it would basically be like 80s trucks in most cases, and then like 70s and 60s and stuff like that vehicles. And like it actually, what's funny is people always talk shit about the Model T, man, but guess what? You know what's going to happen in grid down scenarios, motherfuckers? You're going to have some motherfucker literally driving around in a Model T because they would actually still work. You would have somebody going in the front of that vehicle and cranking that motherfucker up, winding its ass up, and doing like 20 down the fucking road is what it is. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie. I would seriously like if we actually did go down that fucking pathway and stuff like that, and you know I would survive and we'd be in grid down and stuff like that. And I see some fucking old man or something like that, or even like some like middle aged guy or whatever, just driving around a Model T and shit like that. I'm gonna smile and I'm gonna laugh just because it's like I fucking called that shit, dude. So, and then of course all your classic cars will still work. The '50s uh, vehicles they always do with like classic car shows and stuff like that would all work during that time period then as well. So, but yeah, it's an interesting book, and I know for a fact there was somebody that did it was like a book on tape thing or whatever, where they actually did. There's a YouTube channel out there. If you look up 1 second after audiobook or whatever, it'll pop up. I think that channel and a couple other ones where people have done various readings of the book, and it's actually a pretty good listen. Actually, if you don't want to actually read the book or whatever, you just want to listen to a kind of like a book on tape kind of thing. There, I think it's like 16 or 18 hours is what it takes to listen to the whole thing. Then, and it's a really good book, man, and it's a really good listen to for that matter. The guy that's actually doing it. That being said, you really want to be awake when you listen to that stuff because the guy that's actually reading the book, very, very monotone voice to where he could put you to sleep if you're not, fully awake is what it is there. So anyway, that being said, I think that's what I'm gonna do right now. Actually, I'm gonna go listen to that book again now because it's been a while since I've done that. I know for a fact I did a reading of the book, and I basically it was a mix between like reading it and listening to the audio book at the same time because I'm not my thing with my autism is I'm not great with just like reading something. Like I almost need like the audio with it too as well. And that was actually how I read the first Hunger Games book. Was I found some book on tape thing that I was able to listen to, and I was able to do that in like a weekend then. And I realized after that, and I watched the movie, it was like, yeah, they cut a lot of shit out of that movie, dude, where it should have been a TV series with all the stuff that they cut out of the fucking film. So, anyway, like all the backstory of like Katniss and this old woman that was had her little uh, trading post thing and their little trading post there is what it was. Because she was the one that gave her that like Mockingjay pin in the movie is what it was. But there's like a whole thing between her and that old woman where it's like she essentially like traded like meat to that woman and some other stuff for like various items for her family and shit throughout like the years and stuff. And they cut that entire storyline out of that movie is what it was. And it really does piss me off because it's a huge fucking integral part of that book actually. Like knowing that chick's backstory there and knowing like the interaction she had with this whole woman is what it was because she was basically like a mother figure to her when her own mother was all an alcoholic and stuff there. So, but anyway, but yeah, going back to the 1 second after thing though, very good book. Shows how everything would happen there. Like there's like a part of that book actually as well where you have it's like some part into the grid down like 6 months in whatever it is there, and you have people trading like X amount of rounds of ammunition for various games. What it is, it's like, oh, a rabbit gets you like one bullet. It's like, oh, a deer gets you like 4 or 5 or something like that. Depending here and there. And so you definitely have a really interesting take there. And of course, the thing with that is that the setting of that, I think, is like West Virginia, so it's like mountain town where they can actually survive and stuff and have like skills to survive in most cases. The entire first book takes the time span of a year, and it shows exactly why our society is basically being kept together with old folks and stuff like that being able to survive a lot longer just due to like medications and various like electricity for that matter even because once that's all gone, dude, you have people that just die off immediately that are on hospice care and shit like that. That's like the first die off in that book, and there's like a second die off eventually, like a few months down the road, where it's people that are all on psychotic meds and shit like that, like psychiatric meds for like schizophrenia and stuff like that, where they just start their meds run out and they just start going nuts, and you have to have people put them down then because there's no way for them to survive there because they're going on like killing sprees and shit like that otherwise. So yeah, needless to say, it's a really fucking grim read, honestly. But like I'm not gonna lie, the guy who wrote that book though, man, he got it right though, because it's a grim read, but it's exactly what would most likely happen in that kind of scenario is what it is, where you would have people that would just be like, oh, we're all fucked anyway, kind of thing. It's like gloves are off, kind of shit or whatever. In the same vein of things, it's like, oh yeah, you don't have medication anymore. Like, oh, hope you don't have insulin issues and stuff. Hope you don't have type 1 diabetes. Hope you don't have, whatever the case be there, because it's like you're probably not gonna survive very much longer then. So anyway, like even with all my health issues, like at least with me, I know that all that stuff isn't gonna kill me if I'm off my meds. I just know I'm gonna be in a lot of pain is what it will be. Now, granted, that being said, if I had like alternative stuff like CBD oil or even like, weed and shit for the inflammation and stuff like that, I could still, function pretty well. I would just be high all the time is what it would be then. So, yeah, needless to say, that's pretty much where I'm at right now. Like I said, though, to go back and reiterate the whole thing after an hour here, the difference between like professional trades and everyday jobs, like there's not really a whole lot of difference between the two things, honestly, except for the fact that obviously one would be in much more demand in a grid down scenario than just your everyday, cashier or cook or whatever it is there. Now, granted, that being said, even a cook might be worth it because depending if they can actually, like let's actually on that one, I would say more of a short order cook would be more of an in-demand person, especially if they had like some chef skills and stuff, because those would be the kind of people that you'd want to have as your, people that are going to cook your food and stuff, because they could sit there and take a potato and make it like 50 different ways or whatever then, versus, oh, you're just eating like mashed potatoes every day of your life or whatever for the next 6 months. It's like, no, they could do them like all kinds of different ways and stuff like that, and just, have like one thing here, one thing there, and just do that at like a mass scale potentially is what it would be then for like a small community or whatever then. And the same thing with like, various meats and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, anybody that knows how to like do smoking and stuff like that to like, has like a smoker or can do like, preparation of meats and shit. They know exactly how to cook these things and how to like do these things and whatnot. And they would be more in demand with that skill set of knowing how to preserve meat and fish and everything else like that than somebody that doesn't have that kind of skill set is what it is. So yeah, definitely worth it to look into those people or even become one of those people for that matter, because then you would know for a fact that your skills would be in demand with communities in a grid down scenario versus somebody that doesn't have any of those skill sets and has no fucking actual ability to even learn those things. Because I hate to say it, man, there's a lot of dumb motherfuckers out there right now that are not even like I was gonna say teenagers, but it's not even teenagers or kids for that matter, dude. Like I know some kids that know more skills than some adults do for that matter. So yeah, needless to say, like it would be a lot of like like late teens, early 20 somethings, even 30 somethings, even possibly even some 40 somethings for that matter, don't have the skill sets that I'm referring to right now to even like do like basic survival. Like they couldn't even catch a fish and be able to cook it for that matter without somebody else's help. And if you can't even do that, if you can't even do the basics of that shit, dude, to know how to catch a fish with or without a rod and lures and stuff like that, and then be able to actually cook it, whether it be smoking or, actually just cooking it over an open flame or whatever the case be, or be able to start a fire to cook it, then you're not going to do well. you're not going to survive very long. And that's the thing. There's going to be people in the grid down that even straight up refuse to adapt. And those who don't adapt will die fast. And it's as simple as that, really. You either adapt to the situation you're in and you learn a new skill set, or you don't learn a new skill set and you don't survive for very long. Because that's the thing. You're not going to have people like today where we have all those people sucking off the government teat, man. They're going to be removed from communities and societies very quickly, so it'll be. They're going to be the folks that get exiled out for just being a lazy ass bum or whatever the case be. And it's like, oh yeah, you know, Dwayne over there isn't doing his fucking part. Let's kick his ass out of here or whatever the case be. And you're going to have people kicked out of these communities real quick, man. Because they're not going to do anything. They're not going to provide any kind of skill or even any kind of labor for that matter to the communities. And they're going to not be a mouth to feed them. Because why would you have extra mouths to feed when they're not contributing anything to the community overall? You're not going to do that, is what it is, dude. In many cases, people ain't going to put up with that shit, dude. It's either you pull your own weight or you get the fuck out kind of thing. And in many cases, I think that would lead to armed confrontations. And that's why you'd probably have a lot of different areas where it would be something where you have like a main armory and almost every gun's locked up in that main armory. That's underneath like the sheriff's control or like the whatever the law enforcement control of that town would be. And you might have like individuals that have like our trusted, you know, like it's where it's kind of like almost like a patrolman thing, whatever the case be, where they just like hand the weapons or whatever throughout the day and stuff to use for like patrols and shit. But yeah, you would have like most firearms locked away is what it would be, man. Just so that nobody could have like access to like guns for like confrontations like that is what it would be. So anyway. But needless to say, that being said, one thing I would say, honestly, if you would be in that kind of a deal after grid down and shit, I would actually say it's probably not a good idea to have just one main armory like that. You'd want to have like multiples, is what it'd be, where you have like, depending on how many houses there are in your community and stuff like that, I would say essentially have like almost like a gun cabinet or something like that, where it has like a few handguns and maybe like a rifle or two in it, or a shotgun, even for that matter. Like maybe like a shotgun, a rifle, and then maybe like 2 or 3 handguns, depending on the adults in the house and shit, or like any kind of like teenagers in the house that could be able to use the guns as well, for that matter. And you have like each family have like one of those things in the homes. And then meanwhile, you have like the main armory, which is like this larger armory someplace else than is what it would be though. But you also have like these smaller like outlet armories throughout like the town. So if anything does ever happen, you'd have like, you know, marauders come in there. You wouldn't just be everybody trying to run for like this one main armory to go get armed up is what it is. You would have a whole bunch of people being over in various places, just going to their own gun cabinets or maybe like a small gun safe, or whatever they have like a handgun in or whatever the case be, and they use that handgun to get to the rest of the guns is what it'd be then. So yeah, that's my personal opinion on the thing. That's some free advice I want to give everybody out there right now, because if you're not thinking ahead like that, you're going to be the kind of people that are easily overtaken as community very early on in the grid down is what it is. So anyway, but yeah, I'm going to do some more of these grid down scenarios actually in the future. I think I'm going to start doing these as Buckshot Thursdays, if that be the case, dude. Where we start doing like grid down kind of theorems and stuff like that of like, you know, what, like maybe do something where it's like, what is the best, like if you were in like a small town or whatever, like small community or whatever after grid down, like how would you, like if you were like the leadership in that town, how would you set up things to make sure that everybody would be able to be armed at any given time if something were to go down with like outsiders, like marauders or whatever the case be? And you'd have like various like different stage weapons and stuff like that throughout like various places and stuff. So anyway, but other than that, that's pretty much where we're at for the day. I will be back probably Monday or Tuesday. I'm going to be back later tonight, obviously, with Honda and them for his Gay Frog chat, where I don't know if we're going to be talking about what I mentioned here to begin with today or not, with everything that went down in the Discord there yesterday, because I think Honda might have mentioned it on Match Chat a little bit last night, but I'm not sure. I didn't get a chance to really watch Match Chat because I was napping at the time. So yeah, needless to say, I wasn't feeling great last night is what it was. My sleep schedule's been off anymore. That's why I'm doing these right now at like 3 a.m. So in that same vein of things, I think the weather is what's affecting me the most right now, because my joints are kind of hurting a little bit right now, and I think it has to do with the fact that we've had both heat and storms the last couple of days, where you had the heat like Friday early on, and then you had like a storm that afternoon, and then you had like another storm last night is what it was for Saturday night, and it's just like it's definitely like that weird weather patterns coming together. They're like messing up my joints and stuff right now with inflammation and shit. So it's not as bad as it was either like about a week or two ago when it was like super hot and humid and shit. But like it's definitely it's hurting a little bit right now. Like if I had to do like a guesstimation between like 1 and 10 rating, it's probably like a 2.5 to 3 someplace in there of just like constant like dull aches basically. Whereas most of the time it's like anywhere from like a 5 to a 6, if not like higher than that even for that matter. And if it's anywhere near like a 9 or a 10, it's not. That's just me not getting out of bed then. So, yeah, like I could basically deal with like anywhere from like a 5 to a 6 in a given time, and still just be in constant pain and like whining, complaining basically. But anything over like a 7 to a 10, somewhere in there, it's either close to being bedridden or just bedridden. Versus right now, I'm just sitting here and I'm just kind of aching a little bit. Where if I had like it would be nice to have like some CBD oil or something like that right now. I could just put like a little bit on my arm and stuff right here where my elbow joint is hurting on the inside there and just like sort of chill out if that be the case then. But the same vein of things, it's just like it sucks that I don't because it would be nice to have that kind of stuff and just be not in pain versus in constant pain. And then, it's kind of one of those things like I mentioned to that rheumatologist recently, like this is why so many times I'll just wait and stay up until the point where I'm like passing out in front of the computer or wherever I'm at, and then just eventually fall asleep after that. It's because of the fact that it's like, yeah, I'm in so much pain that I just can't deal, man. So, anyway, I gotta check something real quick because I just realized how much time we actually have left right now to do what I wanted to do here. And I can't remember if I did it's gaming related stuff, by the way. They only have about a half hour to finish if I didn't finish it yet. I think I did, but I can't remember offhand 100% if I did or not. So, pretty sure that I did, but I just want to confirm real quick here. Okay, yeah, I did. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. Yep. So, basically, right now we're in the Pamela thing in the game where I forget what they call that. It's like Sunday events or whatever. Yeah, it's the Sunday Frenzy where you have the extra Pamela thing, but it takes like 20 mil to get to her, is what it is. The thing of it is, though, is that you can get 4 extra fragments there. I really wish they would just do like the other one at like 10 mil and do that for like 2, and then do that 20 mil at like 3, maybe even. So at least I could get like 2 fragments instead of just 1 on the Pam. But yeah, if I can get like I already got 5 here for this one, and if I can get another 5 for her other one here in like some hours down the road, which would be 8 hours from, or yeah, not 8 hours, about 4.5 hours from now. Right now, I can get enough of her to be like one shy of being able to get her entirely for another upgrade level wise, which is what I'm going to need to do anyway because in the main account right now she's already tapped out at 74 per level, and if I can get her to 75 or above, that'd be nice because then I'd be able to have her and then Governor and Negan as a trio at some point in the future at all 75 and above then. So, and that would be my 5th formation come next season then, which will be in about, give or take, a little over 3 weeks right now. I think we're about 25, 26 days right now left in the season, which will take second, obviously, and then I'm going to work on the next few days here getting merit stuff. Whenever merit resets. That's one thing people mentioned actually recently was that they wish the merit reset every day or whatever. I don't know if I'd say every single day it should reset, but I would say definitely like multiple times a week, or even maybe have it be something where it's like, because they have like a free thing when it comes to the lone trader stuff. It'd be nice if it was something like that where it'd be like you could hit like the free, it's like a free reset or whatever then, and then maybe anything after that is like X amount of rubies then. Like that would be nice, honestly. Where it's like, yeah, I've already, gotten all this stuff that I want to get off this first one or whatever. Like, let me go ahead and free reset this for the time for like the next few days or whatever then. And then if I want to reset it again, it's like 100 rupees or 200 rupees or whatever then. So that'd be pretty cool. That being said, I think it's supposed to be Monday night sometime is when, like Monday night and Tuesday morning is when they're going to do another update, most likely, where we're going to have all the other stuff that comes into this, like I said the other day, where it's the new, they're finally going to do all the different character fragments as actual fragmentation for whatever character you want then, which is nice because then you can actually get the ones you actually need. And thank God for that, because there's a couple in there that are in the epic ones that I've already gotten way too many of, like Sarah with her main form, because I'm all, I think with the exception of like one of my 3 accounts right now, I think she's all the way up to the point where she has advanced fragments that she needs for it. And then the other ones, they all really need the Corey character upgraded a bunch of times for to get more water and stuff out of him for the overall percentage wise and stuff there. So it'd be nice to be able to finally get a bunch of those epic ones and just have it just all saved up, and then eventually we just grab a bunch of Corys or grab a bunch of whoever then and go from there basically. So, or even just a bunch of like Johns or Imogens or whoever it is then to upgrade that person to like a 3-star character or something in the future. Which don't know if I'm ever going to use those guys for anything, but it would be nice to have them upgrade a little bit more, just to have them potentially be used for scouting stuff when we have new seasons and stuff like that, or we don't waste other characters on those uh, places then. So anyway, that being said, uh, like I said, I'll be back on probably Monday on this channel for not sure what yet, and then we will. I don't know if we'll do anything Tuesday or Wednesday. Buckshot Thursday this coming week will 100% be about the 4th anniversary of Dayton, or not Dayton, 4th anniversary of El Paso, and we'll be doing a reading of names, remembrance and stuff like that and whatnot. Talk about the bullshit lawsuit Mexico's trying to do against America over that whole thing, because a bunch of illegals were in our country that day that got killed that had no business being in the first place. And then you have this coming Friday for Freedom Friday will be the 4th anniversary of Dayton, the fallout there, all the gun fuckery going on right here in Ohio right now, and so forth and so on. And there's a reason why I'm wearing the hat I'm wearing right now, because Poland Meats is one of the only places in this state right now that I know for a fact is a constitutional carry area, because they have right on their fucking sign, concealed carry welcome. And that's why I love that place, and it's my local butcher. So, great place, man. They have a lot of good stuff over there, and you'd be surprised. And that's what I'm saying. Like, going back to the butcher skill sets, those people that run that place are going to be some of the most in demand people in a grit down scenario, man, because they would already know how to take down animals in the different cuts and stuff like that. And yeah, like anything like that, man. A person that's a butcher, a person that has any kind of like skill set with knives like that, they could do like butcher skill sets and stuff, or even be like a butcher's apprentice for that matter. Anybody that could do like forging of things, so like a blacksmith or any kind of thing like that. Wheelwrights will be a thing that comes back in a big way. Wingwrights as well, for that matter. People that could build like different parts of like carriages and stuff like that the right way. And mind you, those are all like old professions from like the old West times, from different shows back in the day, like the End of the West series that Steven Spielberg did some years ago now. By the way, if you never watched that show, watch that fucking show, dude. It's like a 6-episode miniseries or something like that. It's one of the best things I've ever seen in my entire life when it comes to the take between how our country was sort of founded, and then from there, how you had like the gold rush and everything else like that happen, and just everybody going to different places and doing different things then, and how you have like these old school skill sets like that were definitely in demand back then, of like making wheels for um, different buckboards and stuff like that, and various wagons and things. Versus now, those are old things that aren't really existing anymore, but would definitely make comebacks in the future, especially if we're in a situation where you have vehicles that are not being able to be run anymore because they are so computerized and stuff like that. So you would have either that vehicle be, broken down to like bare bones or whatever the case be, except for like seats or something maybe in it. And then you'd have like a really low thing where you'd have like some kind of animal be able to pull that or whatever the case be. Or more likely, what would happen is you'd have old school wagons be made again. You'd have people that actually have to make the wagons and be able to do, 4 or 5 guys, building a fucking tire for that day, stoking up a fire and making it so that you could basically put a metal band around that tire and then sit there and just hammer the shit out of it is what it is. And that's where the whole name of wheeler came from, by the way, is you'd have people that would be wheelwrights back in those days. Like that's where that name actually originates from. It's just like the same exact thing with a lot of other names in our country right now. Is you look at people that were, doing different things and stuff like that, and a lot of those professions is what became their actual last name in many cases. Like I'm sure there's many Smiths out there actually that could probably, look back at some time in their past history and stuff like that with their ancestors, and it was like their, forebearers were some kind of blacksmith or some kind of other kind of smith for that matter, maybe like a coppersmith or something like that for that matter. So anyway, but needless to say, it's fun to think about. It's fun to theorize these things, honestly, because you never know if it's going to happen or not, and it's one of those situations where it's like you almost don't want it to happen, but at the same time, it's like it would be interesting to see if like just live in it for a little bit, just to see how long you can survive in it. Then like for me personally, like I said, I would give myself, depending on any given time, probably about 6 months to a year before I'd be in like real trouble as it would be. But for all I know, I make it a lot longer now, or make it even a little bit less than that for that matter, depending on how things go. Versus, other people that are living in, a major city in this country that would be dead on day number one is what it'd be, man. Because you would just have them being, taken advantage of and just gangs taking over those places and stuff like that, dude. And they would be, you just have them going on killing sprees and stuff like that. If anybody that wasn't part of their gang is what it is then. So exactly why you don't want to be in a major city in this country when this shit falls. That's my advice to everybody right now, honestly. If you actually care about yourself or your family, or if you have family, or whatever the case be, get out of the major cities, dude, for real. Even if you have to, like, commute into a city or whatever the case be to do, like, some kind of work, that's fine, whatever. I would rather commute the hour or two it would take than be in the downtown areas of a city or whatever the case be, or even, like, the outskirts of a city in, like, a suburb area there that's, like, not very safe, than being a few hours away from that city and knowing that if something does happen, like all the cars stop working, whatever the case be, it would be a while before people would come down to my places. Would it be then? And even then, I might have the ability still to, escape that area then and go even deeper in then, like even more time away from these people as it would be then, or even flee to another state for that matter then, like a West Virginia area or whatever the case be, like some holler in West Virginia or something then. So, anyway, something to think about though, honestly, something to think about for real though. Like I said, just my personal advice to anybody out there: if you give a shit about your family, have small children, whatever the case be, even if you have teenage kids for that matter, like probably a good idea just to flee the cities, man. Especially if they're in a leftist state for that matter. I would say flee the entire state for that matter then, because fuck these states that are anti-gun, anti-life, etc. It's time to go to a state that actually cares about you and your family and is better for our society in the long run, dude, because those are going to be the ones that are going to be functioning more than other states when things collapse in this nation. So, anyway, that's about it for today, though. Like I said, things are interesting, and most likely right now at almost 3:40 a.m., I'm going to go and probably start listening to 1 Second After here on YouTube as the book on tape thing there, because it's been a while since I've done so. I think I started listening to it here a while ago, and I just never finished it or whatever. Then, like I think maybe I got like an hour in or something. But yeah, I want to go back and re-listen to it then, and just have it be basically playing in the background while I'm doing stuff then for the next couple hours then here. So anyway, but yeah, find me on Honda's channel later tonight. Then if we do the Gay Frogs chat, I'm assuming we will, because usually he hasn't missed one of those in the last few weeks anyway. Pretty sure it'll be on YouTube. If it's not on YouTube, it'll be on Rumble, I'm sure. But yeah, don't know what we'll be talking about for the day, but who knows? Probably something similar to last week is my guess, with like Atlantis and shit then, or maybe something else for that matter. Maybe we'll do a grid down scenario for that matter. Maybe that's what we'll do for the Gay Frogs tonight. Maybe I'll make sure to steer it in that direction actually and go from there. So anyway, but yeah, needless to say, it was fun, and hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I'll be back later this week for some other stuff. You know, obviously Buckshot Thursday, Freedom Friday will be Givens at this point, unless I'm like not home during one of those times. But yeah, this week will definitely be Givens for what they're about. Next week we'll be doing another one, which will be marking pretty much the 4th anniversary of my federal swatting and how the FBI can go fuck themselves right now. So, and how at least 2 other agents should already be in prison right now, and their pension should be coming to me right now. So, anyway. But other than that, that's pretty much where we're at for the day. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I will see you all in the next one. Later.